Hello and welcome to today's special event. Don't let digital transformation wreak havoc on your network. Today's event is presented in partnership with Gigamon. Thank you to Gigamon for sponsoring this event and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. Now, before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping that I'd like to cover with you. First off, we want this to be a very educational event. So we encourage you to ask questions in the GoToWebinar control panel using the questions pane, and we'll be answering all those questions in a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the event with our expert presenter. So I know we're going to get into a lot of good technical stuff today. As you have questions throughout the event, just put them in that questions box. I'll be queuing up the most popular questions, the best questions for our expert presenter. So please ask questions along the way. Now, we have a $300 Amazon gift card to give away today to one lucky attendee on the live event. If you're watching this event on demand, I'm sorry the drawing has already occurred. You can find full price terms and conditions at events.actualtechmedia.com. Now, I also want to call your attention to the handouts that are there in the GoToWebinar control panel. There are 2 handouts. You can go ahead and just download those now. If you just click on them, they'll download and actually open up in your web browser by default. They are the ESG paper on analyzing the economic benefits of the Gigamon solution that you'll learn about today. And there's also a solutions brief to the Gigamon Application Intelligence platform. So make sure that you check those out. And with that, I'm excited to introduce today's presenter. That is Mr. Sam Kumarsamy, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Gigamon. Sam, thanks for being on.
Oh, you're welcome, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. It's my pleasure to be co-presenting with David, and I'm going to, once David is done, I'm going to be talking, dig deeper into the whole concept of next generation network packet broker.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Sam. So before we get started and before Sam's presentation here, I just want to do a little bit of coverage here on what you're going to learn on today's event, and then talk just briefly about digital transformation. So on today's event, you'll learn about how to use tools that will help you more efficiently optimize traffic and prevent packet duplication, how to enhance security by collecting and distributing NetFlow metadata to your tools, and how to identify and categorize and visualize more than 3,000 different applications automatically on your network. So this is some really cool stuff. And actually, being a former IT manager myself and someone who spent a lot of time doing network packet analysis, to me, this is some cool stuff. This is the latest and greatest in network application visualization and what's going on your network. But before we jump into that, I want to talk briefly about digital transformation. I mean, digital transformation, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. When you talk to CIOs, I think every one of them has, some form of digital transformation initiative in progress. But it's just a question of exactly what are they doing and where are they spending their time and their money, and what's the goal that they're hoping to achieve out of that digital transformation. I mean, statistics tell us here, for example, this IDC stat tells us that the market spend on digital transformation in 2018 was 1.1 trillion, and in 2021 it's expected to hit almost $2 trillion. So we know that companies are spending significant amounts of their budget on digital transformation. But when you do so, there's a lot of different challenges that you need to be aware of. I mean, to really perform digital transformation in any IT organization, especially when it comes to the network, which, I mean, we all know is the lifeblood of the applications. It's what connects everything together. You really need, or you're required to have, application visibility all the way to layer 7, so you can really know what's going on with those applications. And you're not going to be able to know what's going on with the applications unless you can see inside of encrypted traffic. It's not enough to just connect to the network and pull down some traffic. You're not going to be able to really see what's going on. You need application filtering, visualization, metadata intelligence, And traditional NetFlow data is not enough. It's just going to tell you who's talking to who and some basic protocol information, but that's not going to give you a complete picture of what's happening with the applications all the way up to layer 7. You also need multiple tools, and those tools need the right access to the network traffic. The tools are going to be worthless or not as valuable as they could be unless they have the right network traffic that they need to analyze to do their job. And to accomplish this, you're going to need a next generation packet broker. And that's why that's so important when it comes to digital transformation. Now, before we jump into our presentation with today's presenter, we have a quick poll question I want to first pop up here. And so that poll question, let me bring it up on the screen, is, let's see, you should see the question coming up. There we go. What is your organization's biggest challenge when it comes to digital transformation? And it's a single answer question here. So we're asking for your biggest challenge, and it might be tough to select just one, I know, because we have a lot of challenges around digital transformation, but it could be outdated technology, like legacy databases and applications. It could be cultural resistance. Maybe employees and executives are concerned for their jobs, or they're just tied to some application that's been around forever. Maybe it's security concerns with your data and at your company and the network, or it could be scaling your applications. Is this really going to scale for the future? And maybe you just don't know where to start. There's so many different options when it comes to digital transformation. Where do you even begin? So just select the option there that you feel is your biggest challenge. And I'm going to share the results of this poll with you here in just a minute. Let's make sure we get a good number of responses. Again, I appreciate everyone who's taken time to click there and select your biggest challenge. All right, looks like most of the audience has responded. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share the results of that with you. All right, we're calculating the results. Okay, here we go. Security concerns, actually 40%. So that's interesting to see. 32% after that are concerned with outdated technology, followed by 13% say cultural resistance. Sam, what's your take on this?
Thank you, Dave. Very interesting, but this is in line with what is happening in the industry today. It's all about security, right? Because of all the concerns with hackers, with terrorists, that's happening across the organizations. And so it's very consistent with what we are hearing here at Gigamon as well. Most of them are concerned when you do the digital transformation, which, as you explained, and I will talk more in terms of technology, because it's all about, looking at your applications. Applications along with your network are the lifeblood of a company. And it is very important that you just don't get insights into the application, but also be careful what you expose, because the user's sensitive information, such as social security, what I call as any personal identifiable information, should not be exposed, right? And so that is something that is top of mind for everybody, because it not only results in customer being pissed off, for a lack of a better word, but they start going to the competition, and they find a better way, and it results in loss of revenue and loss of customers on a permanent basis for a lot of organizations. So with that, as you pointed out, Dave, just briefly, I want to touch on the topic of digital transformation. It's not just only about technology, though that's what we're going to delve into today. It's about companies making the effort to have the vision to adopt to the latest technology. So it's a cultural thing, even though a lot of people here did not vote culture as a main thing. But it might be as simple as saying, hey, adopting my if you're a vendor of products, rather than just selling perpetual licenses, moving into a subscription-based model, because that's what many customers require today. and meaning that the option of either having perpetual licenses or subscription, which basically translates into CapEx versus OpEx. Different companies have different requirements. Allowing that kind of flexibility, making your company flexible to adapt to the changing customer needs as well as evolving IT environment is extremely important. Otherwise, as you know, you see companies such as Blockbuster going out of business because they do not adapt to the changing needs. They just start, charging a one-time fee for renting a product. And today, see what has happened. People have moved to a subscription-based model. Well, for the charge of renting one movie, they can get unlimited subscription for an entire year almost. Sorry, an entire month. So that's the new world we are living in, and being able to adapt is so important, because if you don't adapt yourself to the changing requirements, you become obsolete and you lose your business. And then also looking at your own culture and being able to change your business according to, having that mentality, such as, not working in silos, but working towards a common goal of a company is so important. That's why everybody should be aligned and work towards one culture, being a one company with a goal in mind, even though you might have different groups with the company, is so important. So enabling collaboration, while it might sound simple, is another way of, enabling digital transformation, being able to rapidly adapt yourself to the changing climate, be it adoption of BYOD or moving towards the cloud, be it hybrid cloud or private and public cloud, it doesn't matter. That being said, applications, as I mentioned, forms the lifeblood of any company, because, think of it as financial applications or healthcare applications. Such sensitive information, you got to be really know what is happening with your applications, make sure it's available, make sure your applications respond according to your SLAs, because as you know, today in web environment, more than 3 seconds to respond to any query, customers will leave your business, will go to your competitor. So it's so important from an application perspective to monitor the customer experience as well as the performance. And as pointed out in the survey, security and compliance of your application is so important. For example, healthcare sites information, yes, they might be encrypted, so there's a tendency to decrypt that information to look at if there's any hidden malware, but be aware you might be in violation of regulatory compliance policies such as HIPAA and GDPR and so on. So that's important. Let's not forget applications can be custom built, in-house, right, or outsourced, or they can exist across various points or various infrastructure such as physical, virtual, or in the cloud. So it is so important that you're able to monitor and secure your applications no matter where they are located. And that is a very complex problem. So the message is, as Dave pointed out, digital transformation is big, as you can see from the market spend. I'm not going to repeat that information, but they're all enabled by digital applications. And I told you, digital applications is the lifeblood along with the network, both go hand in hand. And the third point to remember is, yes, digital applications need to be agile, meaning very responsive because of the SLAs that you have with customers, or as a customer, what agility means, but they're very complex, as I mentioned, because they are located, custom built, and so on. So it's important to understand that they are complex. There should be a means of securing and monitoring it. Network visibility, as Dave pointed out, is the only option. Having complete visibility or pervasive visibility into what's happening into your network. Having a single source of truth for visibility, single place where you can have complete visibility of every packet within your network is extremely important. And as part of that, application-aware network visibility is important for all the reasons I mentioned, why you need to be able to look at digital applications from a response, security, and being able to monitor it from layer 1 through layer 7. And I'll talk more about it as I move along in my webinar. So what are the challenges with the current way of deploying tools in a leaf and spine network? So at a high level, as you can see, this is kind of a very complex network. As you know, you're mostly the large enterprises, service providers, even medium size has become more and more complex because of the growth of BYOD, data existing in the cloud, remote sites, public and private cloud, very complex. And, unfortunately, the solution still many companies think is all about throwing more and more tools at it, be it security tools or network performance or analytics tools. The problem with throwing a lot of tools that not only results in tool sprawl, obviously it's very expensive. The problem in this kind of environment is you're only looking at data from any single point within the segment of your network. So it's basically static data, not pervasive or continuous data that you're seeing, or dynamic data you're not able to see, because as you can see here, the tools only look at certain segments of your network. There's no single aggregation point for the collection of network. So this is a very common problem we at Gigamon see, and that's why it's very important to take into consideration how you're going to get pervasive visibility into the entire environment. So a new model is required, not this tool sprawl methodology that many companies think will solve the problem. A new model, a common instrumentation layer is required, where you get full visibility into all the data in motion throughout your infrastructure, be it physical, virtual, or cloud. And this common instrumentation layer should bring together and protect your agile security stack along with the different network speeds, because today networks are being upgraded on a constant basis from 10 to 40 to 100 gig. And this common instrumentation layer needs to bring together both your security stack as well as your network speeds in any kind of environment, be it physical, virtual, or cloud infrastructure. And we believe bringing them together and having the full visibility into what is happening within your network, being able to inspect every packet within your network will solve the problem of full visibility, so that you can provide the right traffic to the right tools, be it network tools or security tools. While this sounds very stylish, I think from practical purposes, since I know this audience is quite technical, I want to give some practical approaches or best practices on how to start. And I'm not saying this is all written in stone, but these are just suggestions from a best practice perspective. Let's start, for example, how you can deduplicate all the packets, because it's one thing to capture different or tap or span different points within your network, as shown here in the left. So if you're just tapping and sending it to a particular tool, that can become very complex, because you're only sending packets at any one point in time or within one segment, very static information to the particular tool, be it network or security tools. And the problem with that is you might end up duplicating packets and sending duplicate packets to the tool. Now, that could result in inaccurate information, especially from forensics and storage perspective. It will require a lot more space than required because you're sending duplicate packets. So the performance of forensics information is inaccurate, right? Because you have duplicate packets. It also results in tools overload, because you're sending duplicate packets. It reaches capacity. It's not capturing the packets you're supposed to capture. That's the problem. Now, if you introduce a concept of the network packet broker, which is what Gigamon does, it's also from a best practices, we believe, makes a lot of sense, is you're collecting all the packets using the spans and different taps within the network, but you're collecting and aggregating it in a single location, such as the Gigamon's network packet broker. Therefore, you're offloading the tools from doing that job, because you're aggregating it within the network packet broker. And then because the network packet broker has something called flow mapping, you can actually send it first deduplicates the packets, because there is a concept of deduplication, which is a software-based application. using algorithms, it can actually detect duplicate packets, deduplicate the packets, and send only the one copy of the packet to the tool for inspection. So first and foremost, you're offloading the deduplication from the individual tools, so saving tool costs, making the tools more efficient, and providing accurate information. So we have had use cases where there is 75% of deduplication has been prevented by using Gigamon. And you can read case studies going into the Gigamon portal as well. You're welcome to take a read at it. So I'm talking from very practical purposes. So that's, from a networking perspective, one of the first starting points of how you can practically move forward with looking from a network packet broker perspective. The second suggestion, since a lot of you seems to have expressed from a security perspective, you can do using Gigamon, is let's take a scenario here which is very common in most enterprises, where you have inline tools such as intrusion prevention, web application firewall, advanced threat prevention tools. So as you can see here, all the tools are implemented inline. So it does do its job, and this is a very common configuration. But think of it, if you upgrade your network, because all these tools are a bump in the wire and they're implemented inline and in series, in serial fashion, the problem is if you need to upgrade your network, you need to take the tools down. And that, from a networking perspective, you know, that is a no-no from many of the mission-critical verticals such as financial and healthcare and so on, because you need your network to be up, your business to be up 24/7. Think if you want to upgrade, or should one of your tools go down, your entire network goes down. Of course, you will suggest, hey, that's why we have redundancy. Or you can buy another standby of the same tool for each of them. But think of it, when you have hundreds of tools, it becomes extremely expensive. If you want to do a proof of concept, again, you got to take it down. So those are the issues you see with this kind of configuration. However, if you use a next generation network packet broker, and I use the term next generation network packet broker because a regular network packet broker that does deduplication, now adding on security features enhances its whole value proposition. You can insert this tool inline, the tool meaning in this case the next generation network packet broker, and hang all your inline tools off of the next generation network packet broker, in this case like a Gigamon's network packet broker. There are several advantages with this approach. The first and foremost is you can take any of these security tools or your application performance monitoring tools down and not impact the network at all, right? Because you're taking care of the speeds and feeds here. By inserting this inline, the traffic can still go through. If one of the tools go down, you have policies within Gigamon's product that will reroute the traffic to the remaining tools. Should you want to do a proof of concept, you can easily take a tool down without impacting your network. This whole concept of inline bypass, should there be a worst case scenario where for whatever reason your network packet broker goes down, obviously we do advise having a redundant next generation network packet broker. However, should for whatever reason you not purchase an additional high availability or resilient network packet broker, you can just do an inline bypass, which will allow the traffic to bypass the security tools so that your business is still available 24/7. But that is truly not advisable. As you know, security is a top concern. So you don't want to be doing that. So because it's inline, and if you have concerns about security, you can always buy, our advice or our best practices is to have a redundant box. And that's less expensive than buying a redundant tool for each of the tools that you have, which can result in millions of dollars. This way, you can actually save millions of dollars depending on the number of tools. We have had cases where 90% of the tool costs have been saved by having a next generation network packet broker. Again, things for you to think about from a value proposition perspective. The next is there are a lot of blind spots in that leaf and spine architecture that I talked about. And as you all know, today encrypted traffic is about 80 to 90% of web traffic is encrypted. And that's the way you want to go, because you want to protect all the sensitive information from all sorts of bad actors, be it with insider threats or even from international threats coming from terrorists and so on. So that's a good way. Encrypted traffic is a good way of protecting your sensitive data. But guess what? Gartner has done a study where it says 60% of malware still communicates through encrypted traffic. So while encrypted traffic is something that is essential for every company, it's also important that you decrypt the traffic to inspect it for any hidden malware. And that is extremely important, because for all you know, there's bad actors communicating through encrypted traffic as well, and you really want to prevent that. Now, there are, from a best practices perspective, it's important to look at various factors. For example, if you do have tools from different vendors decrypting traffic at each individual tool level, but there are several issues with that. First and foremost is it's very expensive, because you need a special processor for each and every tool that you have in your environment, and the cost of each tool can quickly add up. I mean, you have various vendors doing next generation firewall also claiming that they can do SSL decryption, but they only do it for that particular tool. So you have to decrypt it, re-encrypt it, and send it to the next tool. That introduces latency into the network, especially if you have to go through that process through tens to hundreds of tools. The other thing is that scaling. You need to be able to scale to 10 gig, 40 gig, and 100 gig as your traffic grows. So that's something you want to look at. Last but not the least is also be sensitive to the fact that you cannot decrypt all traffic, especially sensitive traffic coming from healthcare sites and financial sites. Those have to be looked into carefully. And because of HIPAA or GDPR kind of regulations, you need to selectively not decrypt those sensitive traffic coming from those particular sites, but you can decrypt other traffic. So whatever means you're using or the tools that you choose, make sure that you have the ability to selectively decrypt the traffic. Using Gigamon, there's several advantages doing it at the network packet broker level. There is an option which we call as Gigasmart application. So I talked about de-duplication. Another module, another application that we have is called SSL Decryption. Again, a significant advantage by doing it at this level is that you can decrypt once and have it have the traffic inspected by multiple tools, as you have seen here in the diagram. And this could be both inline and out-of-band tools. So first and foremost, you're offloading this from the individual tools so that you're sending the traffic to different tools at the same time. So you're saving time, resources, cost, processor cost. And then because we have flow mapping and mapping rules, you can selectively decrypt traffic as well and direct so that you can determine, for example, using signatures, we have a means of looking at traffic coming from, for example, healthcare sites, and you can instruct the network packet broker not to decrypt traffic coming from such sites because you're in violation of regulatory compliance policies. Well, all that is said and done, it's very important to know that the amount of data growing today exceeds the capacity of the tools to actually inspect each and every packet. Because at 100 gig speeds, you have only, as you can see here on the right-hand side, 6.7 nanoseconds available to process a network packet that is passing through. Almost any tool today does not have the capacity to process that data. And as you know, data is only growing, and the security tools really don't have the capacity to process each and every data. So what we are recommending is, one of the first things you can look at is NetFlow information. NetFlow, as you know, typically looks at layer 1 through layer 4, but obviously you have NetFlow today that can also, NetFlow 9.x version also looks at layer 1 through layer 7. But in general, NetFlow does not provide you sufficient information. And there are many issues with the way NetFlow is being generated today at the routers and switches. First and foremost is, it's very taxing on the routers and switches, as you can see here on the left-hand side. Without using a network packet broker, the challenges are, it only provides you limited information. First of all, you're overtaxing the routers and switches by enabling them to actually do NetFlow generation, because it is in addition to their core work that they do of routing traffic. But you really cannot determine what kind of information is being transmitted. On the right-hand side, by using a next-generation network packet broker, you are able to collect the information by using taps and aggregate that data and then send it to the right traffic to the right tools again in terms of NetFlow information. This way, you're offloading, you're allowing the routers and switches to do their job of routing traffic, which is their core competency, and then also preventing that load going directly to the security tools, because on the left-hand side, there's no aggregation, there's no redirection of sending the right traffic to the right tools. Almost every tool gets that NetFlow information. Again, limited information, but again, doing it the right way of generating using the next generation network packet broker is a best practice that Gigamon recommends. However, there's a need to look at layer 1 through layer 7 data, because you want to look at it from many perspectives. If you're just sending all the packet directly to any of your analytic tools, such as SIM, as seen here in the graphic and the animation, sending all traffic or all network packets, events, and so on to a SIM vendor typically is not feasible, because you are going to overwhelm the SIM, such as IBM QRadar or Splunk. And the problem also you're going to face is the fact that they charge by the amount of data that they ingest. And as you know, costs quickly add up, because Splunk charges by the amount of information they ingest. So you want to just send the right information, contextual information, so that the SIMs can, or the SecOps and NetOps people can make a decision based on that contextual information and digest that information pretty quickly. So this is metadata generation without a network packet broker. If you use a network packet broker, again, another option is the metadata engine. You can look at very specific applications, type of traffic like DNS, SSL traffic, and also look at HTTP information. And I'll give you examples in the next slide. So you're only sending contextual information. So such as DNS. So I want to dig deep, because first and foremost, you're able to look at layer 1 through layer 7 information. Such as DNS, you can identify rogue DNS servers in the network. So while your SIM might be able to say one of your end points has been infected with malware, by looking at metadata, you're able to say, is that malware that has infected the particular endpoint, is it really malicious, for example? Now you can monitor using the metadata. Using metadata, we can let you know if they're tunneling that information, if that malware or the end user is actually using DNS to communicate with an external command and control site and sending sensitive information. So that's the level of information that Gigamon's metadata can provide you, so that you can quickly take action and not be worried about malware that is harmless, but actually prevent this type of communication. So that's one example. You can also find infected machines through spikes in response codes using HTTP. And SSL, we can tell you if a certificate has expired, so that you can go and renew that certificate. So that's the level of detail that you really need. And this saves you the SIM cost of simply sending information and then trying to find the needle in the haystack, if you will. Moving along. I guess we have the next poll question, Dave. Do you want to take over?
That's right, Sam. Yeah, let me pop up this poll for the audience. So the poll question here is, do you know what applications are running on your network? And I'll be curious to find out here what level of visibility the attendees on today's event feel that they have into the applications that are running on the network. So it starts off at 100 and goes down to 25 or less than 25%. So just select a single answer there, and then I'll share the results of this, and you can see how you stack up with everyone else who's on today's event. So I'll give you a moment to answer that. Looks like the responses are coming in. Let's get a few more. All right, looks like we've got some good responses here. So let me go ahead and share this with the audience. And let's see, 19% say they have 100% visibility. I find that very impressive. And then it's broken down into roughly 25 to 29% below that. Sam, how does this stack up with what you typically see?
So that's very interesting. I'm looking at the lower end. So if you add both of them, 52% have only 50% or less than 50% visibility into the network, while I guess more advanced, matured organizations have that 75% and 100% visibility. So very interesting. It's split between 50 and 50. So that's so we do have very mature organizations that are claiming, but if you see, then 75 and below is where most of them, and we can help with that. So from a next generation network packet broker, let's talk about visibility. I want to get into that so that, I kind of give a solution to most of the problems there of how to obtain 100% visibility. So we can address digital applications. So that brings us to the whole topic of, yes, I talked about the complexity and all that, but how do you get into the visibility now? So Gigamon, from a best practices perspective, has just developed a new GigaSmart application called Application Intelligence, which basically consists of 3 primary components. Application visualization is being able to classify more than 3,000 plus applications within your network, looking all the way from layer 1 through layer 7. And it's able to classify the applications into different categories or groups, if you want to say web, financial, social media, and so on, so that you can take very specific actions based on them. And it can break it down based on protocols as well. Not only just identifying, because I'm sure most of the listeners here are saying, well, I can do that with other vendors as well. But the ability to filter applications according to your tools, sending the right application traffic to the right tools. For example, application performance monitoring tools may not be interested in the high volume, low risk data such as social media. They want to filter and only look at the performance of mission critical applications such as SAP as an example. That's the ability of application filtering component of Gigamon's application intelligence solution that we can provide. And you can detect, manage, and isolate certain applications. But from a security tool perspective, they want to see all the application traffic. So having that flexibility and having the flow mapping to do that is what Gigamon provides. And last but not the least, application metadata. I just talked about a few of the applications before. But now with application metadata, we can provide about 5,000 plus metadata attributes. So really looking at metrics from their application, going not only broad, to the 3,000 plus application, but going deep into looking at the response time, because I talked about previously how the issues with applications are, if they don't respond to queries quickly, the customer moves on to the next solution. So it's so important to have the metrics around security, performance, and customer experience. How to have delightful customer experience and not annoying customer experience, as I like to say. And being able to send that data to the different analytics tools based on what the customer has in their environment. So having the APIs, so it's the breadth and the depth and the integration with the ecosystem that makes the application intelligence solution from Gigamon very unique compared to the other vendors. I'm going to move on quickly because it's the next set of things are basically screenshots. So this is how our application filtering looks. The top applications based on bandwidth is the pie chart, and the list of the total applications you can see in your environment. So this is just a sample that we looked at from a Gigamon perspective. So you can see here at the bottom the number of applications, and then this is the total volume of traffic. You can actually classify the applications on different groups and so on, which are not indicated here, but it basically tells you the different applications, the number of packets, and the bytes of traffic as well. The filtering component, as you can see here, the number of applications that it detects, and then using the Gigamon Visibility Fabric with the application intelligence solution, you are able to send the right traffic to the right tools. An example here is the packet-based forensics, for example, wants to only look at certain data, not the social media. But then if you look at the threat detection, it needs to see all of that Twitter traffic and social media traffic as well. This is just an example visually to show how we function and the ability to filter that makes this unique than just identifying applications. The next slide basically tells you the different types of metadata we can see. We can look at, for example, database examples, look at the unique identifiers for request and response so that you can measure the request and response. File sharing applications such as Box and Dropbox, we can look at it from a security perspective, make sure the user logging in is the user who says he is. File upload and download, we measure those times so that you're within your SLA and you're keeping up with the customers. You're delighting the customers with immediate response in terms of the upload time and the download time. And then you can also apply similar attributes to applications such as SCADA and ICS and group them together as well and look at attributes such as control flags and data record too. That's the uniqueness that we bring to the table. So in short, the next generation network packet broker is able to consolidate, aggregate, distribute traffic from across your infrastructure, be it in the cloud, on-prem, as you can see here on the left-hand side, and apply the various traffic intelligence so that you can decrypt the traffic and route the right traffic to the right tools. And we have different integrations as well through APIs that you can send that information to the different tools. So that is what the compelling power of the next generation network packet broker, where you are simplifying the infrastructure rather than sending all this traffic to the individual tools and not having complete visibility. The complete network visibility and application visibility can be provided by the next generation network packet broker. And this helps both NetOps as well as SecOps teams to collaborate and work towards a common goal. And this helps in the digital transformation as well. And moving on to the next slide, it's just saying, hey, SecOps, as many of you are in this webinar, you know that your top priority is basically owning the security tools, and it's all about security. Sometimes it's required that you slow down the speed of the networks just because you want to inspect and make sure it's secure data. And sometimes that's in conflict with the NetOps, who are all about performance and availability of the network and making sure your business is up and running 24/7. And there is a tendency to say security is not my top priority. But as we all know, I think it's important to have both their goals met. And we believe the next generation network packet broker can enable that collaboration by providing the right data to the right tools and ensuring that your network does not go down in that process by implementing it inline and enabling collaboration basically, or aligning the goals of SecOps and NetOps, therefore enabling the digital transformation by working towards a common goal for the company and not approach all of this with a siloed approach. So in short, using the next generation network packet broker, You can enable use de-duplication of packets to lower tool overhead because you're only sending the right packets, not duplicate packets. You can decouple tools from the speeds of networks by implementing the next generation network packet broker inline, as I pointed out. Optimize network performance and strengthen security. Again, enabling both your NetOps and SecOps to function and do their jobs without impacting any of you. The fourth bullet is offloading both NetFlow and SSL decryption to a central location rather than having it done by individual tools. That forces making your tools more efficient and saving costs. Using metadata for threat prioritization and response, because metadata is sending very contextual information. And enabling collaboration between NetOps and SecOps that I just talked about, and overall making your company more agile and secure during digital transformation for all the reasons that I said, making your NetOps or networking people more agile and improving security, which is all very important components of your digital transformation, be it application or network perspective. Moving on to the next slide.
Yeah, it looks like it's time for some questions here. So you've done a great job laying out the case here for a network packet broker and how it is so critical for anyone who's undergoing a digital transformation initiative. Now it's time for Q&A. If you're out there in the audience and you have questions about network packet brokers, how they're different from maybe the existing tools you already have, how they can help make your network faster or more secure, now's the time to ask those questions. Before we jump into today's prize and the Q&A session, I want to remind everyone that Gigamon has a great community out there. It's at community.gigamon.com, where you can ask more questions, search the knowledge base. There's interest groups and so on. Let's get into the prize announcement here, and then we're going to do some Q&A. So the winner of today's $300 gift card is Eric Calvary from Texas. Congratulations, Eric Calvary from Texas. If you'd like to donate your prize to charity, we would love to help you do that, and we'll be reaching out to you to deliver that prize. So I'm going to bring up Sam's contact information here and additional information about Gigamon and just leave that on the screen. I'm also going to put in a special link there in the audience chat box to learn more about the Gigamon Application Intelligence solution. If you just click on that link in your chat box, you can click on that and learn more. So let's see here. Sam, you ready for some Q&A?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, excellent. So, I mean, a lot of companies, I know this first question is about, is Gigamon, I mean, when they think about a network packet broker, they're saying they think of, a box, a physical hardware box that I put into the network closet in the data center or wherever it might be. With many applications moving to virtualization and to cloud, how do I implement a network packet broker there?
Great question. So what I didn't talk about is, that's why I kept it at a little bit of a high level, whereas the physical appliance is great for, looking at it from a physical data center perspective. We do have a virtualized model. So we do have a software-based, what we call as the V series for public cloud, which is basically AWS Azure. And we have something called the GigaView VM for VMware, and the V series for OpenStack as well. We are also in the process of developing software for any cloud, where we will be able to support any cloud with the next release coming up in July 31st. So to answer your question, Dave, that was a great question from the audience. And thanks for bringing my attention to it, is the fact that obviously we talk about visibility across your physical, virtual, and cloud environment. We obviously support that, where you have to implement our product within the AWS, Azure, OpenStack, or VM. And you have the flexibility of actually, if all your tools, such as security and networking, are located in the physical data center, then you would aggregate that the traffic acquisition and aggregation in the cloud, and then pull it back to the physical environment because your tools are in the physical environment. But should your tools also be in the virtual environment, then, as I mentioned, the V series, which is look at it as a cloud version of our physical appliances, then you can send it in the cloud itself. So we are very flexible in that sense compared to the other vendors. Some of the other vendors only offer it as software as a service, don't give that flexibility where the customer can control it within their environment because they want to see what is going on. So that is the flexibility that we offer. And so to repeat that, my answer, we do both physical, virtual, and in the cloud. And as I mentioned, we support both public and private cloud. And even in a hybrid environment, we can support that as well with the combination of physical as well as virtual V series.
Yeah, I think that's very smart that you all are doing that and making that available. I mean, with more companies as part of their digital transformation initiative, moving to containers and virtualization and to the public cloud, it's very important for them to have the application visibility. So you all give that to them no matter where the application resides. Let's see, next question here. They say they already have an APM solution for application performance monitoring. Does the application intelligence that you talked about in the presentation today, would it replace that or would it augment it?
Oh, great question, because and thanks for raising that question, because I really want to clarify that. We are in no means trying to replace the APM vendors out there. Our goal is to, like I mentioned, within the application intelligence, we have three components: visualization, where we identify over 3,000 applications, including custom applications. The filtering part should answer the question. Our goal is to send the right traffic to the right tools. So an APM vendor, as I mentioned in my previous example, would only, they have now the power to determine if they want to just do performance monitoring on a critical application such as SAP, or do they want to, so they have that option to filter, for example, social media traffic, which might be taking most of their bandwidth. They can filter that and only send the mission critical applications for inspection. So we are actually augmenting, enhancing, and empowering the APM vendors to do their job better, make their tools more efficient by enabling the application filtering capability. So definitely an enhancement. And by the way, we have partners with number of performance management tools such as Riverbed, Plixer, and so on. So, go into our alliances website, under our website, and look for all the partnerships that we have with performance management and network managers. So we're not looking to replace them. We're looking to empower, enhance, and augment them.
Okay, excellent. That's good to know. That's a good clarification there. And then here's a follow-up question to that one. They're asking, when sending traffic to an APM or NPMD tool, will metadata packets, like you talked about, DNS and things like that, will that type of traffic be sent there as well?
It's up to you. So the idea is, it's really up to the customer. So typically that kind of data is used, metadata can be used by a number of tools, but typically we find within the security space, the metadata is used more effectively. At least the vendors we have partnered with currently, they can use it to shorten the detection and investigation time, because like I gave an example of prioritizing threats or prioritizing very specific information such as malware infection, whether that malware is really a top priority that they need to address because it's communicating with the command and control site, that needs to be stopped. That communication needs to be stopped because they're sending sensitive information, versus an infected device that is kind of harmless because there's no communication with an external site and so on. Obviously, if the APM vendors need to see that kind of information for whatever reason, there's nothing preventing us from sending that data over. But I just want to make it clear that in many cases, it's in the security cases, we have seen a lot of interest, but that's not, again, to lower the importance for APM vendors to look at metadata.
Okay, nice. So the the user has the choice on what they'd like to do. I like that.
Exactly.
Another question here. I know you mentioned Cisco NetFlow. This person is asking, with a network packet broker in place, do I turn off NetFlow, or does the network packet broker receive NetFlow data?
So we receive NetFlow data actually centrally, rather than just having the routers generated. We can put in taps between the different segments and pull that information and make sure none of the NetFlow data is getting dropped, because we want to inspect each and every traffic, because we want to make sure there's no packet is being dropped from a security perspective, because we need to try and capture all the data that is possible. But we have the ability to aggregate that data using the NetFlow Gigamon application, because then we can route the right traffic to the right tools, rather than just sending all the NetFlow information to the different tools, unnecessarily overburdening it. We can route the information to the right tools. So the ability to acquire, aggregate, and then distribute at a central location. That's what the network packet broker brings to the table. We're not trying to, so we are offloading the generation of NetFlow data by doing that NetFlow generation ourselves. That's the key.
Yeah, I like that. And you made the point in your presentation that, as the bandwidth of networks increases and the amount of network traffic increases, the NetFlow and the monitoring tools just can't keep up, or won't be able to keep up in the future. And that's why companies really need a network packet broker. Let's see. Last question here we probably have time for. That is, they say, we have a next-gen firewall that does SSL decryption. Why should I still get a network next-gen packet broker for SSL decryption? So should I do SSL decryption on both, or do I just do that on the network packet broker? Sam?
That's a great question. So I'll answer this in two parts. One is, if they already have a next generation network packet broker, obviously they've sunk their investment in it. So I'm not going to tell them to rip that apart and then move to a next generation network packet broker. I was merely articulating the values of doing it at the next generation network packet broker, because you can decrypt it once and supply to multiple tools. Whereas if you do it at the next generation network packet broker, it's only good for the decryption and inspection at that next generation network packet broker level. Then you have to re-encrypt it and send it to the next intrusion prevention tool, to the web application firewall. As I mentioned, there are several disadvantages of doing it at the individual tool level, from a cost, from a processor, from a network latency, and having the flexibility of selectively decrypting traffic because of being compliant with HIPAA regulations. So my advice is, when it comes to renewal time, please give a thought to the next generation network packet broker because of all the advantages. It's much lower in cost compared to some high price next generation firewall vendors who charge you a lot more money than doing it at the Gigamon's next generation network packet broker. That's my suggestion, is to kind of do a proof of concept and see the value that the next generation network packet broker brings to the table. So that's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to push anything, but making some suggestions from a best practices perspective.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I think you made a great case today for the value of next generation network packet brokers and how they can, or how they're so valuable when it comes to digital transformation initiatives that pretty much every company out there is doing. And we learned from our poll that 40% said that security is their biggest challenge when it comes to digital transformation. And here, you all at Gigamon have a solution to help make companies more secure and make their networks higher performance. So it looks like that's all the time we have in today's session. Sam, thank you so much for being on the event today.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. It's my pleasure, and glad I could answer many of your questions from our audience. Yeah.
Excellent. And thank you, everyone who joined us on today's event. For more information on the Gigamon solution, visit gigamon.com/app-aware, and also check out the handouts that are available for download there in your audience console. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and see you on the next event. Bye-bye.